Hello, my name is Kevin Amerson. I'm going to do a short theme um, vlog on the Bible, on the Old Testament to be exact. There are many different themes in the Bible, and the two that I'm going to go over today are idolatry and kingship. There are different examples in the Old Testament of idols being made and worshipped, breaking the first three commandments. The first three commandments being in Exodus 20, verses 3 through 5. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the heaven and the earth, beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers of the children on the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Here are the four examples of the idols being worshipped by God's people. Sin, though this name is not widely known, was the name for the moon. 2 Kings 23, verse 5 says, And he deposed the priest who the kings of Judah had ordained to make offerings in the high places of the cities of Judah and around Jerusalem. Those who also burned incense to Baal, to the sun and the moon, and the constellations, and all the hosts of the heavens. Now, in that single verse there has showing that making offerings to everything that the three commandments that we just went over said not to do. And he said he's got the sun, the moon, and the constellations, everything of around the heavens. So as depicted in the text below, offerings were made to the moon god with the little g various times of the Old Testament. At least three different books of the Old Testament shows record of moon worship. Deuteronomy 17:3 also says, And has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, or the sun, or the moon, or any of the host of heaven, which I have forbidden. This passage is words spoken out by God, and he is laying down ground rules and laws on how to live, how to serve, and how to obey him. The scripture shows that God is fully aware of sin, the moon being worshipped. The second example is one that's more widely known. It's called the golden calf. After God rescues the people of Israel out of slavery to Egypt, Moses goes up onto the mountain to meet with God. In the meantime, Moses' brother Aaron stays behind and makes a dreadful mistake to appease the crowds. Exodus 32 1 through 6 tells us, When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. So Aaron said to them, Take off the rings of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said to him, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it and made a proclamation, saying, Tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord. And they rose up early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. The people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Now they had done what Aaron had done this out of good faith. He was trying to make a god-like idol to worship the Lord in, but they were impatient, so he went ahead and done something he wasn't supposed to do and made an idol. But in his effort to appease the crowds, they broke one of the commandments that was on the way down with Moses. They just wanted it to be done then and there. Mazabah, or Baal, as we know it best, was an idol widely worshipped in the first and second Kings. The prophet Elijah had a world of problems of kings that worshipped the god of Baal. Now, Baal was a god of the Moabites in the early books of the Bible, But Baal didn't really make an appearance until 1 Kings chapter 18. That's when God's sovereign power triumphed over Baal and his worshippers. The fourth and final idol worship was that of Asherah. Polar posts were constructed in a representation of the goddess Asherah. For this idol, we are still in the book of 2 Kings. 2 Kings 17:10 says, "They set up for themselves pillars of Asherah on every high hill and under every green tree." If we read all of 2 Kings 17, 1 through 23, it goes into further depth of Israel being captured and taken away because they disobeyed God's commands. God actually turned away from them and allowed Israel to be captured, and that was the reason why he had turned away from them. Now, God says that all these examples are important, and God will not allow to worship other things and other idols from before Him. He will remove them from your life. The second theme I want to go over is kingship. In this theme of kingship, we're going to look at several different passages where the Lord tells His followers that great kings will descend from their lineage and offspring. In Genesis 17, 5 through 6, "No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you." In this passage, the Lord is talking to Abraham and is informing him for being faithful to him, God will bless his line with many kings. In Genesis 49, verses 9 and 10, says, "Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as a lioness, who dares rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from in between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of his people." In this passage, Jacob is telling his sons what's going to happen to them in their futures. When Jacob gets to Judah, you can see that the Lord will bless his bloodline to have many kings as well. The third example is found in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 12 and 13. In this passage, Nathan, who is a follower of Christ, and he is kind of like a confidant to the king, wakes up in the middle of the night, and the Lord tells Nathan to go to David and tell him what he's fixing to tell Nathan. And this is what he said. He said, "When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever." They've actually followed to the next king after David is actually Solomon, and he built the temple of the ark for God, so they could worship with him inside. God is telling David that he has looked out for him and David has been faithfully served the Lord, that will have his offspring be kings, and David's line can be traced all back to the New Testament, where Jesus is born. Both of these themes are very important to the Old Testament, but these two are the most important, I do believe, because one, it shows that God keeps his promises, and he made the promises to Abraham, to Judah, and also to David. They were all kings, and in their retrospect, they were all great kings as well. But I hope that you enjoyed this intro to some of the themes in the Old Testament. Have a good night.